I did a PhD work in collective intelligence and crowdsourcing while I was working at Intel, and that was back in London. Now, I didn't finish my PhD. I could already tell that I was much more of an entrepreneur than academic, so I ended up selling my PhD thesis. I charged $150 each, self-published, sold 1,000 copies. I made twice as much money as my professor at the age of 25. Entrepreneur thing.
Mark Turrell, tech entrepreneur, a real genius.
Because of that, it means that if it's not real, then you decide if you're a philosopher or an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, it means you can change everything. You can bend reality. If you look at the great entrepreneurs, they've always bent reality.
How to be able to achieve the outcomes that you're looking for with perhaps very little tools on your table.
But if I have to be more precise, what do you think about quantum?
Many organizations have got massive data sets, like all the secrets, and they're all encrypted. What are they encrypted with? Well, they're basically now encrypted with, but as soon as you get whatever quantum decrypting level, where you have massive compute that will be put into this area, basically it'll be like protecting Fort Knox with sellotape.
Awesome. Mic testing. Are we good?
Thank you. So I'm not particularly targeted. Why should I be targeted?
Why not?
Some people might pick up missions. Some people might have good missions. Some people might have stupid missions. One thing that I would urge people to do, even if you're not, is try to learn more about critical thinking skills. I'm not technical.
Come on.
But being an entrepreneur is a stupid idea. Terrible.
Really?
It's a terrible idea. Don't do it. It's a terrible idea.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Quantum Minds podcast. My name is Kapil Dhiman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Curanium. I'm joined by my amazing co-host Olivia Karlsson to interview a real disruptor today, Mark Turrell, who's a tech entrepreneur, a professor at business schools, a community builder, has taken companies IPO, has been building since years, a real genius. I'm so honored to have you on the show, Mark. Thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thank you very much, both of you, for having me. Thank you.
I think I really can't do justice to your background and the journey you have had. So I'm going to request you to share with the audience what you have done so far, where you are right now, and what's your focus in life right now.
It's the many questions, I was saying. So quite often when people just ask me, what do? I just say, I do stuff. Stuff. So my background, I was born in Canada. My parents come from South Africa. I grew up in England. I now live in Berlin. Now, I always say these things exactly the same, because then it just shows that first of all, I've always been an immigrant, so I've always been moving around. So therefore, I don't hold on to the stuff that is there. I don't hold on to the traditions of a particular country. For me, I like making things, and I like being personally involved in making those things. So that gives me family background. I did a PhD work in collective intelligence and crowdsourcing while I was working at Intel, and that was back in London. Now, I didn't finish my PhD. I could already tell that I was much more of an entrepreneur than academic, so I ended up selling my PhD thesis. I charged $150 each, self-published, sold 1,000 copies. I made twice as much money as my professor at the age of 25. Entrepreneur thing. So I then did entrepreneur thing. I created my first business, almost went bankrupt in the first 6 months because I did business school, but I didn't learn about cash flow. So I learned the very hard way, but I managed to rescue that. So I created a company called Imaginatic, which is imagination and technology. That's a company that I IPO'd back in 2006, and that was doing collective intelligence and crowdsourcing systems. Then after that company, then I became a professor at a business school. So Holt International Business School, I teach a course on persuasion, spread, and scaling when the electives come up. I then consulted in all kinds of projects, also non-profit projects and different things. And currently I'm working with a company called Fresh Solutions, which is an AI company doing AI-powered apps, mostly for public sector clients in Switzerland, but now that we built our platform, we're now extending it out to other types of clients, private sector, public sector as well, and doing lots of cool and interesting stuff. It's fun stuff.
Awesome. So this has been okay, and I'm going to definitely dive deeper into each aspect because the way you have described it, and off the camera when we were talking, I strongly believe you're one of the best storytellers I've met. The way you describe things, it's just fascinating. But you do a lot of community building stuff as well. Would you like to share about that?
So if I maybe respond, so I don't just do community building for the sake of community building because it's boring. Because there are many people that do just don't care.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm much more mission driven. So for a variety of reasons, I set myself a 25-year plan to change the entire world for better, all of it at the same time.
Wow.
Ideally without anybody knowing that it's me, because it would make it harder and it fits my personality. Now, obviously I can't stop anybody knowing that I exist, but that will be fine. So as part of that initiative, and I'm now in year 16, I've got 9 years left. So it's important to somehow have networks and networks of networks. Communities are a certain type of network, but then rather than just any old network, there are certain types of environments where those networks or communities can be extremely powerful, useful, helpful. And the particular community that I help create and develop and nurture is called unDavos. So you know the World Economic Forum?
Yes.
So, and for those of you who don't, there's this big conference in Switzerland every year in Davos, Switzerland, and it's the World Economic Forum's annual meeting. Well, even since the 1990s, the conference got hacked by Goldman Sachs, McKinsey, because they would do side events alongside the World Economic Forum. So it's been like normal for conference hacking, just that the banks and the consulting firms started. So I was a member of the forum back from 2008. I was a member of the forum for quite, which member means you pay them money and they allow you to go in. And if they like you, they let you speak. But when I found out that the side event community worked, I managed to join the side event community when it was only 5 or 6 people. And then when I had learnt the secret, I was told by these people that also knew the secret, don't tell anybody else the secret, because then we'll get locked down. But because I'm mission-driven rather than self-driven, my goal is to change the world at scale, and I was looking at how do we connect the dots at scale. So therefore, in order for me to help achieve my big plans of changing the world at scale and helping people do their stuff, I realized that we need more people in Davos. We need to democratize Davos. And that meant that more people, the right people, needed to know how Davos worked. And so now that started off with only 5 or 6 people doing this type of thing back in 2011, and now it's about 6,000. And the world, just to give you an idea of scale, the World Economic Forum's annual membership, they have 3,000 delegates. 6,000 people is twice as big. Now there is some overlap, but it means that this democratizing Davos movement, even if the WEF is really trying to close everything down, you can't fight everybody. Well, you could try. But yeah, so therefore community building with a particular purpose. But I have some other skills and stuff as well.
Yeah, I feel like you have such you have a lot of different things going on, but this particular element that you're focusing on in terms of community building and driving value to more people and decentralizing things, I think it's really interesting. What would you say, for somebody who's going to Davos for the first time, what can they expect and how should they navigate it to get the most out of their first time?
So first of all, it's going to be very overwhelming in your first year. It's going to be very overwhelming in your second year, but for different reasons. The third year, you can kind of chill a little bit. So I think it's very useful. I mean, it's expensive going to Davos. It's expensive in terms of time. It's in Switzerland anyway, and it's not the cheapest place to have a cup of coffee. What it means, and it's also, you've got, there's about 20,000 people that are in this little town. It's only for 1 week. So when we talk about Davos, we talk about a small point in time. We don't talk about the town.
Yeah.
So we also talk about Davos. We don't talk about World Economic Forum, because it's only the people that go to the World Economic Forum say World Economic Forum. Davos is really this whole context and this community. So when you go, it's good to have a goal. It's not essential. But I think, so I've had years when I've had no goal whatsoever, and those years have been amazing. Just phenomenal conversations. I've also had years when I've had a goal, very specific goals, and those years have been amazing too. So fortune favors the prepared mind, the Seneca quote or version of it.
Yeah.
And so therefore, to at least have in mind or an intention of what it is that you want to go do, that's going to be helpful. At the same time, Davos is a very special place. It's sort of known as the Serendipity Mountain.
Yeah.
Because you don't know that For all you know, the person that is in front of you in the queue might be Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook. The person behind you is a journalist from Bloomberg, and the person it's this tiny little place. There's about 1.5 kilometers between this Congress Center building and the sort of end of the strip, and people just go backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. And it's not even 1.5 square kilometers. It's actually 1.5 linear kilometers. It's like flatland, where you just have one single point. You go backwards, forward, backwards, forward. But it means then that I think, let's say, I always look at what percentage of your time should be spent being focused versus not focused. And I mean, so let's say for you guys going to Davos, I'd always recommend 70% focused. Now, what that means is that when you have your topic, you go into your topic, you talk about your topic 70% of the time. 30% of the time, people will then say, well, do you want to come along to oceans and conservation? Well, in your head, you might be thinking, I don't care about fish. But you shouldn't say that. I'm like, sure.
And just go with the flow and see where it takes you, because you might meet like unexpected people that, you know, could kind of fuel other visions or, yeah.
And those people might have oceans as their passion project, but then they're working as a family office in Monaco, and because of that... So yeah. It's I think as well, I mean, my first year in Davos in 2008, I was very transactional. So 250 business cards, you stack them high. The second year, I basically stopped being transactional. I mean, I was much more relationship driven, spending more time having conversations. I mean, they're just different ways of doing it. And the thing is that it's expensive to do Davos. So even for me, so I had a tech company. I just done my IPO. This was with Imaginatic. We were nominated as a tech pioneer. My cost of being in Davos, there's the WEF ticket. I had the half-price ticket as a tech pioneer. I had the tech pioneer annual membership fee to the forum, and I had to pretty much get to Davos. So my actual cost in there in 2008 was 30,000 Swiss francs. Now, if it seems like a lot of money because your company's too small, don't go, because you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So, but for me, this was perfect because we were a scale-up. Right now then, since I did the numbers, I knew that every client for us was worth $110,000 per year. That was our average revenue per client. So all I have to do is find one client, and then it's all good.
Yeah.
So, and I've realized more and more over time that pretty much everybody is rational. Very few people are going to Davos just to be seen. You can always be seen in other places. Very few people go there because of the parties. There are better parties. I mean, I've been to all of the parties, but there are better parties. I think what though happens is that if you just do a sort of risk adjustment, if you spend 30,000, you need to see 3 times the return. At least this is what you expect. So if you're raising money, you need to raise whatever's, at least have conversations that could lead to 1 or 2 million. What happens is that if you don't get that from your first Davos experience, you'd never come back again. Because why would you? Because it didn't work. If you do get it, what happens is people come back and they do bigger and bigger things every time. And as Davos keeps growing by 10 to 15% every single year, and it will do so again for 2025, this is because rational people get value from it. I mean, Davos fundamentally, it's the ultimate business networking platform. There's nothing like it.
That's so interesting. And I think, like you said, that people have a rational approach to Davos, tend to get a lot out of it. What about like being mission driven? Because you mentioned like your mindset has always been mission driven. Where do you think that originates? Like, where does that come from? Because you have all these people come together and they all kind of have a similar mindset. So on a personal level, I'm wondering, like, if you're like walking around in life and you have like a huge mission, where do you think the fuel is coming from? Like, why do you think people are mission driven to begin with?
Well, so they don't all have the same mission at all.
Yeah.
Because people are all different.
Yeah.
So there are loads of assholes. There are loads of people that are arrogant, narcissistic. There are loads of these people. There's also people that are nice and lovely and they do fuck all. Are we allowed to say that? Right. So it's I mean, if you want to just understand how humans work and how diverse we are, go out to wherever you are and just look at people's shoes and try to find 2 people wearing the same shoes. There's massive diversity of how humans work. The thing is, though, at a certain point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what individual diversity has. So some people might pick up missions. Some people might have good missions. Some people might have stupid missions. So now in my case, so I like thinking. I also don't do small talk ever, or maybe apart from with my mother. So if you're listening, mother, hello. You have a special carve out still, but it is stressful for me to do small talk. I just don't like it. I used to live in America. Have you ever lived in America?
Not me.
No. They only do small talk. Oh my God, small talk. I love talking. Talking is one of my hobbies. Hobbies actually starts with the letter H. Oh my God, H is one of my favorite letters, but I is also good. So I lived in San Francisco, I lived in Boston, I lived in Los Angeles, and because I couldn't do small talk, what I would do is that I would always go out with a piece of paper and a pen, and I would write, and I would rather talk to myself than talk to random people doing small talk. Mm-hmm. But then I need to have a purpose. I need to have something that I'm going to go look at. So then I did people watching at scale. I could watch what the people would do. I would then make estimates of what they're going to do next. And so I was doing this with very, very strong intent to learn, to find out how more things worked. This means I love thinking and getting deeper and deeper insight. So then, this means then that with this as a basis, I sort of know myself quite well, extremely well, certainly compared to other people. And so then I work out, well, okay, if I find, let's say, many things easy, I just need to do a bigger plan. So that's where some of these things go. Now, people might find these missions in other ways. Many people have very inauthentic, unreal missions. They say the words, but they don't do a single thing that shows that they're moving towards it. But I don't care. They could do whatever they want. But they're still not going to succeed, but I don't care. Because it's not for me to care. There's 8 billion people on the planet.
But when you said that you have stepped on a mission to change the world, what triggered it?
Okay, so I have a 25-year plan to change the world. So where does it come from? This is a good question. Yeah. So right now, back in 2008, so actually it was middle of 2007 or September, I found out that I'd been nominated by the World Economic Forum to be a technology pioneer. Mm-hmm. This is a special community within the WEF, and then there's only at the time about 30 companies a year would get this thing. So it's a huge accolade. I didn't try for it. I didn't have a PR company that was pushing for it. One of our clients had found this thing. We applied, and we managed to get in. One of only 3 UK companies to get in. So this is fantastic. So, and this was with Imaginatic. This is the crowdsourcing, collaborative problem-solving software. So, and I'd also just gone public, so that was good. At the time, I've been thinking through that I seem to get whatever I want. Now, by the way, you have to be very careful what you wish for, but so this would seem to be working. So as this sort of, I remember getting this big folder, you've been invited, oh, by the way, you still have to pay, so it's not like a freebie thing, but it's still worth it. That meant that one of my lifetime's ambitions of going to Davos, now this is before side events existed, so then it was only WEF or nothing, I was going to achieve yet another one of my lifetime goals. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, I'm a bit bored of myself, because now I've been doing my company for about 14 years at the time. We'd done an IPO, we had capital in the bank, we were growing, we were scaling up, but I was a bit bored. So I remembered as a child that I would sort of talk myself to sleep by telling myself stories of imagining that I had a circle of friends around my head, and that each night we would pick a particular issue of whatever that was damaging the environment of the planet. So I remember one about we need to stop the tuna fishermen killing the dolphins. Mm-hmm. And I just imagined how this would all work. So I then thought, well, okay, well, if as a child I wanted to change the world for better, I should just do that. And since everything that I seem to want works, well, even if I get halfway there, it's not going to be too bad. So I'm going to set myself a mission that I exist to change the world for better. At the time, I've been fascinated about how blog technology meant that I was just thinking about how crazy it would be that there would be one blog for the planet or one podcast for the planet. It doesn't make any sense. With technology, you can have millions of podcasts and millions of blogs. So therefore, I could come up with methods, because I love methods, systems, and tactics. I could help at scale. So I then had looked at a book called The Fourth Turning, which looks at generational blocks of around 18 years. So I thought, well, okay, if I pick about 25 years, that's a generation and a half, and you can make substantive change over that time period. And then I already worked out, this is all within, 5 or 6 minutes of me having a think. I worked out that I don't want anybody to know that I exist. I'd found when a lot of times when people do social projects, they personally want to get lots of fame and attention. That means nobody wants to work with them afterwards because they're arrogant SOBs. So I don't want to be that. It also fits my personality to hide away. So, and for some of these projects, there might be some level of personal risk as well, notoriety. So I'd rather just hide in the distance and just help people out. Like, have you seen the movie Inception?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do that kind of stuff. It's much better. Like, persuade people to go do things. But also because to get into any specific, I also was looking at, I have to help in all kinds of domains of society, but for, let's say, we pick water as one topic. Now, already somebody would say, well, energy is a more important topic. Well, this is fine. But to solve the water problem is going to take you at least one lifetime, if not two. Well, I don't have time. So that means I'd rather focus on methods, technologies, techniques that could be taught, learned, adopted, this type of thing. So I'd already figured out pieces of my plan. I knew that the key thing that I had to do was called connect the dots at scale, because that's the sort of effectively the core of the master plan is connect the dots at scale. We've got a few other pieces as well. And then in order to work out if I was crazy or not, I set myself a target of changing 4 million people's lives for the better, directly or indirectly in 4 years. Now at this point, after 10 minutes of thinking, my wife comes downstairs, my partner, so she knows me very well. She's co-founder of the company as well. So, and I told her this is what I'm going to go do, and she says, great, add a 0 onto your number. And then she walked off. Okay. So this means that I need to change 40 million people's lives for the better in 4 years. All it means that I need a different plan. So the reason why I'm sort of saying all of this is that I then gave myself 6 weeks to actually write a plan, which I then did. Nice plan. But at this point now, I need to do a pilot project to work out if I'm crazy. Because many people talk about changing the world at scale, and they do. Cool. Well, they make things worse. So right now then, I went to Davos. I spoke to 100 people. 99 of them ignored me. Fortunately, some of them did buy my software, so that was good. One guy that I met, he was from Zimbabwe. I met him at 7 o'clock in the morning on a shuttle bus ride, like half an hour bus ride. We sat down a little bit later, and he said, look, he's the deputy leader of the opposition party of Zimbabwe. They're fighting an election in 5 weeks. They know that they'd win the election, but this is back in 2008. Robert Mugabe, the dictator, is guaranteed to steal the election because it's a corrupt democracy. So his challenge was, how do you have a fair count of the vote? But he said, look, problem is that we're looking for help. However, if you want to help us, be aware that we have no time. It's only 5 weeks. We have no money. We can't solve the problem with cash. And if anybody finds out what's going on, everybody will be murdered. And I said, well, I need to share that I have 3 problems of my own. I don't know where Zimbabwe is. Like, I know nothing about your country. I know nothing about elections. I was Canadian living overseas. I haven't been allowed to vote anywhere, so I have no idea about how elections work. And the last thing is that I've only had 2 hours of sleep because I was partying until 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up at 6. I'm probably still drunk. But this is now a point. There's a certain moment when you can, like, effectively, you are challenged to yourself, and it's a case of do you perform or not? And you need to own, or I need to own, whatever comes out. So in this case, then I said, okay, this looks like it is basically an impossibly hard problem to fix. I'll fix it. And so what happened is that together we invented crowdsourced election monitoring. Got 1,000 people with camera phones. They took pictures of their election results, not their votes, but the tally from the local polling station. The pictures got sent to a website in South Africa where 10 students turned the pictures into a spreadsheet. Within 3 hours, they'd counted over a third of all possible votes. The bad guy ended up losing, even though the bad guy cheated every single other vote. Because we had so much proof and evidence very, very quickly, the bad guy lost the election by 50.4%, and it changed the outcome of an entire country.
Wow.
That took me less than 45 minutes, and I didn't know where the country was.
Incredible.
Oh, by the way, can you guess my first question that I asked him?
Go on. I don't think I can guess it.
Well, okay, what was my target?
40 million, changing 40 million people's
So
lives.
what was my first question then?
If it's possible.
No.
No?
How many people are voting?
Exactly. How many people live in Zimbabwe? Okay. 13 million people. It means that if I do, because you're looking for projects with meaning. So this means that if I fix your problem, I do 25% of my target with one project. Of course I help.
Come on.
And that's how it works. The method was then used in Senegal, Nigeria, and other countries. It was like a secret because it wasn't, let's say, widely published. But so therefore, that project alone, I could claim success on my numbers. But if you can do one, then why can't you do other things? So I've done lots of other stuff as well.
Wow. So you are really mission driven. You are a numbers guy for sure. You want to change the world, but be very articulated and very targeted about it. So where are you right now in this mission of changing 40 million lives as we stand today?
Well, like you said, I'm not particularly targeted. Why should I be targeted?
Why not?
Well, there's to make substantial change, either you need to be the person that will make it yourself, or you need to know the person that is tasked with doing it. So right now, in the Zimbabwe case, I just got lucky that the guy that I spoke to, it was his job to do this. That was luck. I've spoken to other people beforehand who've got, let's say, similar challenges, whether it's in like an elections in Venezuela, as an example, but that person didn't have the capacity to do anything about it. So even if I have the perfect plan, it doesn't work. But then it goes into, partially it's opportunistic. So have you ever heard of the $1 Million Global Teacher Prize?
Not really.
So the Varkey family, great family, they do the GEMS education company, and they have a foundation focused on teaching.
Okay.
And it occurred to them that they wanted to raise the profile of teaching, and so they wanted to celebrate teachers as like Oscar winners. And so they came up with this $1 million prize for the world's best teacher. I did the consulting work for the first 2 years to help design that prize, design the method, how do you filter people and everything else. And I like that prize because teachers are incredibly powerful, like within a network. Each teacher has at least 30 kids that they can affect every single year. But then some of these teachers can affect many, many more, particularly if they gain some sort of positive notoriety for great methods. So therefore, as a global role modeling method, it's a phenomenal project. But that came because I was telling the Zimbabwe story to some guy in Davos, and one of the sons of the Varkey family listened and said, "Oh, that's really cool, you should help us." So I wasn't thinking about education as a particular area before that. This is just why I'm sort of clarifying to say, well, okay, you have to be targeted. Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes you just have to be in the right place to have the potential of the right conversations. But if they don't happen, it doesn't matter.
That's kind of leading up to one of the questions that I had, because I was thinking in alignment with Quantum Minds, we're also kind of trying to, just provide insights to like how to be able to achieve the outcomes that you're looking for with perhaps very little tools on your table. Like, if you're a young entrepreneur and you're looking to change the world, but you might not have the network yet, or you might not have an idea about, a solution to a problem, even though the problem exists. How would you say that people should go about resources if they're limited in solving problems and building tactics, for example, or applying tactics to achieve the outcome that they're desiring to achieve?
So we've now been sitting here for what, 20 minutes? Something like that?
Something like half hour, maybe 20 minutes.
So, okay, how far have we physically moved in the last half hour? Physically, like measurable physical?
Pretty much not at all.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
600 kilometers.
Come on. How's that?
Have you noticed that sometimes it gets dark outside?
While we have been here?
Oh, yeah, you mean that the world is rotating.
Why does it get... It gets dark because the Earth is spinning, and it spins at 1,200 kilometers approximately at this area. So right now, this means even if you didn't notice it, it's irrelevant. We have literally moved 600 kilometers. We've also gone 20,000 kilometers around the sun and 400,000 kilometers in the Milky Way.
Okay, you're blowing my mind.
But what it means then is that you can't get more real than measurable physical distance. And yet, if you change your frame of reference, you get completely different answers.
Wow.
This now means that fundamentally our concept of reality should be broken, because all reality is completely relative. Therefore, it's not real. Because of that, it means that if it's not real, then you decide if you're a philosopher or an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, it means you can change everything. You can bend reality. If you look at the great entrepreneurs, they've always bent reality. And so right now, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Sorry, please explain bending reality. Let's Elaborate on that.
Well, so right now you're starting off, and you've been told by the people in your family to say, okay, like you have no ideas, you're useless, you might have ADD or something. You'll never get anywhere. Your brother is going to be a doctor, and you're a total loser.
Yeah.
Right,
I hear that a lot.
It happens. So right now, then it's your computer class, you'd like this, but then you're told by your computer science teacher to say, like, I mean, the method that you're using is all wrong. Nobody would ever do that.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean to say that you'll be a successful entrepreneur. It doesn't mean to say that you'll be a successful coder. But already the fact that you think differently to other people at least gives you a chance. Because if you do the same thing as everybody else, obviously, like in best case, you get employed.
Yeah.
So I think then, now there are many more, there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being a successful entrepreneur. And the difference might be do you have a $4,000 watch or not type of thing. That's one of the stupid things that I bought when I took my company public. I then broke the watch immediately, and I never wear the watches because I hurt my hand. But right now then, for those sort of people who want to be entrepreneurs, I mean, it's never been easier to start meaningful businesses. One thing as well, I'm sure you use ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, it's better than a friend because your friend doesn't know Python. Your friend wants to go to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. Your friend can't translate a letter from a Korean business partner. So ChatGPT does, though, or Claude, or all of these different things as well. So right now, if you're sort of going down your journey and you have AI as a friend, you can do so much stuff with it. Like, it's just insane, crazy amount of stuff.
Yeah.
It's never been easier. But also now there's lots of services that go off the shelf. There's frameworks that exist. It really never has been easier to go do it. And even to the extent, one thing that I've been working on right now with some products that I'm playing with at the moment is quite often it's hard for people to imagine what customers are like. So therefore it's hard to build your thing because you can't imagine the customers. Well, ChatGPT or others can imagine the customers for you. So you just have to say, well, okay, for my product, can you imagine 5 target customers? And okay, here's Jenny, here's Steve. They'll even make pictures of the customers for you. And then what you do is you just need to remember that if you're saying, okay, here is this marketing blurb that we have, how would each of my target customers respond? And how could I change it and improve it to make it fit them better? So you don't actually have to meet the customers, because you can almost use AI and the sort of the large language models that exist to at least come up with something that is probably 70% good, which is the equivalent of 90% good enough, from your home or from your desk or from the coffee shop.
Wow, I love it the way you put that, the 70 versus 90%.
Yeah.
That puts things into perspective.
Well, and it's, people are so demanding. Right now, it's quite interesting looking at AI, because then for some reason, like, we accept that humans are mostly kind of silly often, and we're humans as well. Okay, I'm not, but I'm an alien, that's just the thing. But right now then, all of a sudden when we talk about AI, we suddenly imagine that every single person is Einstein or Mozart. Like, really? And even Einstein would have had bad days, and Einstein did his best work when he was 19. So just largely just sort of some of his work. So right now then, it's having things that are good enough is pretty much how humans function. It doesn't have to be that good. Just like move it on a bit. Particularly since a lot of things that take place are iterative. So unless you're able to I build prototype systems and proof of concepts and then minimum viable products and then products that go out. But for me, I'm desperate to get feedback. Because even if I'm a confident business person with many years of experience doing some cool stuff, I don't know what you need. I'm doing one project right now with UNHCR, and the project is sort of codenamed like Airbnbs for refugee camps. So, but I don't know how you check in a refugee. I don't know. I mean, I could sort of imagine it, but that's not the same thing. But then, all I need to do is have a WhatsApp chat with Abdi in Sudan, or Vasilis in Greece, and then they will tell me. So one of the attitudes I recommend people have in this day and age as leaderships is to be confident humility. So I am a leader. If I do not lead, I'm still leading, I'm just leading badly. But I need to be humble in that I don't know the answers. But in that case, ask somebody else. Get them to do it. Or do a Google search. Ask AI to write it for you. Lots of stuff.
That's cool stuff. That's really cool. I think it's like, pairing that that creativity and that curiosity with emerging technology has created like a reality that is bent in comparison to what people might have expected 100 years ago, or maybe even 50 years ago, or maybe even 10 years ago.
I mean, at the moment we live in a world of witchcraft. This is witchcraft.
Essentially.
It's like magic stuff. But then it's an interesting one. I remember there was an MIT professor, it was Michael Schrage, or Savage, I can't remember. So it was that people without technology without people doesn't work, but people without technology don't scale. So it was some sort of combination. The thing, though, is that at the time, that was, let's say, there was the beginning of like network technologies. There was something called groupware collaboration technologies. What's happening with AI, though, is actually different. Then you don't actually need the people inside of these things. But certainly if you want to scale things, you absolutely have to have technology. It's the only way to do it.
That's a very interesting point. And actually that touches upon the next question that I wanted to ask you. You have been a tech entrepreneur now, but a lot of decisions that have driven you towards a larger purpose, which is like impacting 40 million lives, is not coming from a technical mindset, not a tech mindset, right? It's like towards a society, understanding people, impacting lives at large. You're using tech to enable that. What's your take on, and the reason I ask this question is 2024 and beyond, it's going to be driven by emerging technologies. We're talking about AI, quantum computing, blockchain, IoT, etc. Like literally the world is going to be run by technology. You don't know tech, you don't know how to use tech, you're going to be falling behind. But at the same time, to drive it efficiently or to drive it in a human way, you have to have a human side as well. And that's why I think there is this book I read, Techies and the Fuzzies, if I'm not wrong, where it says that even in the age of tech, people who have more psychological and more sociological background are going to be the best entrepreneurs. Because they understand, because you use tech to build for humans at the end of the day. How do you read that?
It's so I'm not technical.
Come on.
I mean, I'm CTO of my current company, and I was done these things before, and I do build applications.
The T there is like technology.
well. So the thing is that so I didn't do computer science.
Okay.
I can kind of code, but I'm terrible at it.
Okay.
Terrible. I can build things. And the first, I built a product called Idea Central when I was with Imaginatic, and I built the first prototype for 3 days, and it took us 1 man year to undo the mistakes that I made. Now, the thing is that if I hadn't built the prototype, we wouldn't have got to the point where we could afford to spend 1 man year to fixing the mistakes. So I've never been a technical person. For me, I get my view as to say, like, what do people want? What do they need? I am curious. So, okay, well, you say you want that and need that. Why? And why do you want that? So, Toyota have a thing called the 5 whys. One thing that I would urge people to do, even if you're not, is try to learn more about critical thinking skills and try to somehow learn and develop critical thinking skills, because most people don't have these skills, and therefore most people do stupid stuff most of the time.
Yeah.
So right now the 5 whys would be, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? Why'd you just do it 5 times? Because this gives you bigger insight to allow you to potentially build better systems. Looking at, if you remember I gave the shoe example of looking around, seeing the shoes. So I use this, let's say more practically, I call it model of others. So in my head, and I've got 5,000 different types of people in my head. And I'm playing the game to work out which one of the types of people you are, because based on the type of people you are, I know pretty much how you'd behave, how you'd respond, how you might do certain things. Most people don't have a concept of others. Most people, when they're building things, think about, I would do this way. Well, who cares? You're not the market. So right now then, getting more empathy, understanding about how other people work. And this, quite often, it's a skill that needs to be acquired. It's a skill that needs to be nurtured and trained. But it'll allow you to build better things that are more likely to fit more people. It is a human skill rather than a sort of pure technical skill. However, the technical people can always build their technology to allow for configuration. So for me, when I built my software, I always start off by thinking, well, okay, what is the most likely use case? but then how likely is it that other people might want to do different things? And if it's quite likely, in that case, make it configurable. And then it's with confident humility, yes, I'm the leader, but I don't know what I'm doing. So therefore, allow other people to decide what the options are. So these are just sort of new ways of building things in this day and age. And I think technology has helped us do it a lot. So there's more and more configurable things. But it does mean that we as companies, now not always, so sometimes a product is very good when it's very sort of highly standardized, allows you to scale it because you just perfectly nailed it. But even then, for those companies who are getting started, until you've figured out exactly what people want, you need to be very flexible, adaptive, and this kind of thing.
Very interesting. And do you think there is anything particular, any specific instance in an individual's life which changes their focus? What I mean by that is, in business, we are always driven by money. That's why it's known as business.
Always? Are you always driven by money?
No, not me. I'm talking about business. Like
most
business,
of the time.
Most of the time. Okay. I stand corrected. Because that's what business is at the end of the day. If you don't make money, it's not going to be a business, right? Then you call it something else.
For whom, though? Are you an employee? Are you the founder? Are you the investor?
I would say for everybody, right? If you're calling it a business, at the end of the day, you have to make money. Otherwise, how are you going to survive?
Because you're going to get a job in another company and you're just using it to build up your reference. That's one example. I could come up with 50. We were just talking about model of others. You're quite deterministic, so people do this.
You mean it's all about perspective, right? Like what frame of mind people are in and the purpose of them being there? Or?
Well, we've got the concept that nothing is real. We've got all perspectives. We now have it that people don't all wear the same shoes, so that people are all different. Based on that, then, that people are all different, it means that it is very, very unlikely that everybody is driven by money, because all you have to do is find one example of yourself, and you realize, wow, I'm not driven by money all the time, so therefore what I've just said is wrong.
No, not driven by money in terms of it's a necessity, right? You may not give it as higher importance.
But that's not how it works. I mean, even now, if you look at whatever research with Gen Z will look at, people would rather take time off than take more money. So they're just different attitudes, and some people might have a thing where they might sacrifice sort of salary or business because their partner's moving to a country and then they'll just rather be with the partner. There's loads of reasons.
Yeah, but you will still not do it for free, right? You will give it less importance, but you'll need money at the end.
Yeah, but no, but what it does though is it creates this very, very misleading narrative that it's all about money. And that's an extremely misleading narrative.
Okay.
Extremely misleading. Because then you'll be mostly wrong about most people all the time.
Okay. How do you fit it in the current age where there is like such high competition when it comes to building? And I'm now addressing the young founders who are looking to build something, right? They're looking like a very tough competition, and you spoke about bending the reality, because that is required to build something actually which is going to disrupt.
But being an entrepreneur is a stupid idea. Terrible.
Really?
It's a terrible idea. Don't do it. It's a terrible idea.
Thank you guys so much.
Well, because I mean, it takes you longer than you think. It costs you much more money than you think. You earn less money than you think.
Yeah.
You're going to fail.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you will. Now, of course, if you don't believe me, then you have a chance of potentially being a good entrepreneur.
Okay, then I still have a chance.
That's actually a good point.
I mean, I almost went bust in the first 6 months. Didn't mean I didn't stop doing it. I just did it again. But actually, when I almost went bust in the first 6 months, I didn't. I decided that I would pay back the debt that I had. I would then have at least another 10,000 sterling, I was in London at the time, in my bank account within 1 year. And if I didn't achieve that, I would give up and become a consultant and just work for whatever, Ernst & Young.
So that's a very good point, right?
And I did, and I achieved it in 10 months because that just gave me focus, so I could make it. So, I mean, I like numbers, but I don't care about money. I just like numbers, and I like playing a little game.
Okay. No, you made a very brilliant point, and I would really love to dive deeper into that, because like that's like the classic plan A, plan B thing, right? Many people believe when they dive onto an entrepreneurial journey to start building something because they are passion driven, that there should be no plan B, no matter what, no matter how much time it takes. I'm going to do this, I'm going to succeed in this. Another approach is have a backup plan, have a plan B. Okay, I'm going to give my all to build something, but if it doesn't work out, I need to have a fallback option. Which one would you advise?
Well, so what I tend to do is about every 2 or 3 years. So I mean, if I'm like my Imaginatic business, I did for 14 years. So because just to understand that, so if you're an angel investor in a brand new startup, the average time it takes to get a return is 10 years. And you won't get a return because most of them fail. Even if you're a VC, it takes 7 years to get a return. as in like there's an exit or a moment. So to do it properly takes years and years. However, when you start, you don't know if this is going to be 10 years of your life or it's going to be 1 year and you justify you buying a laptop. So what I tend to do is that I like the market, I like customers, because it gives you a market signal. So if you build a thing and nobody wants it, well, it's a market signal, nobody wants it. So either change it or get rid of it. So quite often what I do when I'm in these sort of transition periods, then I might do 2 or 3 different projects at the same time, but I'm designing them intentionally to get market feedback to say which one of these things is more likely to work. Now, at the time, by the way, each one of these 3 things is a bad financial issue because at the moment I'm spending time, sometimes money, to build things without any clear understanding of what happens next. So rationally speaking, to some extent, this is a bad idea. Why also would I do 3? The thing is, I don't know which one's going to work. And sometimes all 3 of them fail, but I learned very valuable skills during that 1-year period that then in the next year, something just goes plop and like, oh yeah, that totally works. And it turns out all of the skills that I've acquired because of doing little projects fit together. And this is what I'm doing now. So my new company is called Fresh Solutions, and now we're building these AI applications for public sector and private sector. So there are a project that I had that I did a COVID company doing video supervised COVID testing. In the end, the company got bankrupted because our investors pulled out at a certain point and people just stopped, and I couldn't quite pivot the company into the new business model with the money that we had. So that company got bankrupted. But most of the skills, lessons, learning, technology that I built, I've been able to then take that and then extend it into the next thing. And that meant that to get into the next thing was able to take whatever sort of hours and days. It didn't take me years. So I was able to take advantage of the opportunity. So that one was a stepping stone to move forward. But I think another thing that I just sort of would like people to think about is that it's understanding almost the sort of the notion of failure within an entrepreneurial world. So I worked out that actually most things fail, and if you look at statistically, the odds of being successful at anything is basically 0. So I went public. So there were 60 material decisions that had to be made over a course of 18 months. And if 10 of those had gone the wrong way, it would have failed. The thing is that 8 of them went the wrong way, but it didn't fail. So then it actually turns out that if I did the mathematical calculation of just multiplying probability of this and this and this, the odds of being successful was 0.00001. But it still worked. So therefore, somehow the math is wrong. What I found out, though, is that in most cases, these failures aren't failures, they're just setbacks. And most systems are quite resilient, particularly if you're a good quality entrepreneur that is agile, mentally flexible, open-minded, not dogmatic, because then it means that if a certain way doesn't work, you go around a different way. But quite often it turns out that that different way was a better way in the first place. But maybe at the time you had too much money. Maybe you had 100,000 in your bank account instead of 5,000. And because you had 100,000, you did silly things. But because you had 5,000, you had to do these things. So, and I actually wrote about 50 Shades of Grey in my scaling book, which is on Amazon now, I can get. So, and I was looking at how this lady managed to create basically $1 billion business, and she was a terrible writer, which is, I don't know if you read a terrible book. But so she managed to then make a series of perfect decisions, even though it was just a terrible book. But that was partially because almost as though circumstances forced her because she couldn't do it in any other way.
That's so interesting. I think it ties into something that I've recently been talking a lot about in alignment with external locus of control versus internal locus of control. How much do you think is circumstantial, like in terms of achieving success? Because eventually you will probably wind up on a path with enough knowledge, and you'll kind of figure out whether or not you want to continue or change the goal or whatever. The journey's long, right? Do you what would you say is the percentage of like things coming down to just random circumstance? And how much would you say is within your own control in terms of, you actually achieving the goals that you've set out?
So, I mean, we lead our life through our own eyes. So when you die, it's just you. So to some extent, we could argue that right now having this sort of lead life through your own eyes is very important. Now, that's not the case. Everybody does that. In fact, actually, can I give you a quick test?
Oh dear.
Okay. So right now, you were the audience, I mean, you're listening to this, you can all do it yourselves, okay? So if you get your finger, so you know the letter Q.
Sorry?
You know the letter
Letter
Q,
Q.
Okay.
as in queen, quick. So the capital letter is a circle with a line. If you get your finger, and if you then draw the letter Q on your forehead, if you do it now,
Okay. Okay.
okay? So we have a couple of minutes, so I do my Q this way. So what we've done now, because we're listening to this thing, so half the world do the Q with the circle and a line over to the left. That means that it's wrong for themselves and it's right for other people. Those people get their frame of reference from other people because it's wrong for them. Half the world do it the other way around, which is how I do it. So that means it's right for me.
Yeah, that's how I did it too, I think.
You both did it in some special ways.
Oh, okay.
Because, so then there are, let's say, a small, like very small percentage of people that, let's say, interpret the question. Because the question I always ask them the same is, it comes from Richard Wiseman, a professor from Oxford University. The book Quirkology had it, so I picked it up from him. So what it does, it goes into how to, like as a pop science, what is your frame of reference for the world? Now your cue was you did a full face circle, and then your cue was that way. That's quite unusual. This is, let's say, 1 in 1,000. Now, you weren't prompted to go do this, but that's relative. I had one guy that did his cue upside down, and then it turns out he was on mushrooms.
Wow.
But okay,
I'm not on any mushrooms.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
No. And then your cue was in the middle. You thought about it. You actually did 2 cues. You did one cue without a line, and then you finded a line, and then you did a cue in the middle. So we could drill into these things a little bit, but so I asked this question just as a way of like saying how people see the world. So if people see the world this way, sort of for other people, they get externalities are extremely important. These would be the people that are, let's say, want to be influencers, and they're extremely upset if they don't get the right amount of likes, and they get obsessed about it. But then there are the people that are more independent-minded and go their own way, this way. And so therefore I don't care if you don't like my stuff. So right now, but this will then go into what is the emotional balance in your head, where are you in terms of your personal development, and then it could also be you're in a toxic relationship with an emotional vampire, and then you share your deep innermost secrets, and they just use it to basically hurt you more because they're humans. I'm an alien, I'm just studying your planet. Earth gets a 1.5 stars, and the intergalactic recommendation is go before they kill the animals, because the animals are cool.
Fair point.
Actually, humans can be quite fun. Right.
So yeah, I mean, this Q experiment is very interesting to kind of figure out, like you asked the question, like external locus or internal locus. Now, I would like to really use this opportunity to connect to the theme of our podcast, Quantum Minds, and which is driven towards emerging technology, and of course trying to understand leaders like you who have this amazing, brilliant mindset, because you're the one who's shaping the future. But if I have to be more precise, what do you think about quantum? Do you think that's gonna play an important role in the next 5 years? AI is becoming the hot topic right now. AI is everywhere. Do you think quantum is gonna pick up to that pace? Is it as important as it seems, or it's gonna take its own time? Where do you think that particular technology is gonna sit in the whole larger scheme of things?
So, looking at AI, I mean, AI has emerged over sort of 40 plus years of computer science, and it's gone different waves. So I think for AI, people are saying, well, okay, the AI has been around for ages, but for most of us, it was when we did ChatGPT and we said, please write me a birthday song in Korean. That was when most people got exposure, and then you're looking at 200 million weekly users on OpenAI. That's a lot of people. So I think then if I look at quantum, so for me personally, I always thought the silicon was a silly idea of binary 1 and 0. It just was our human brains, every neuron. I have a brain scanner at home as well, so I like neuroscience, behavioral science. So every neuron that we have inside of our brain is connected to about 1,000 others. It just is structured differently, and that's why with our very small amount of brain power we can calculate phenomenally extremely hard things to do with silicon, but we can do it differently. Now that doesn't mean to say that our brains are quantum, but it means to say that they're wired fundamentally differently. The next is that if we begin to look at many of the challenges that we have, let's say, working out, let's take the street where we have people with the shoes, what will everybody do in the next 1 minute? Which direction will they go? That's a lot of compute that you would need to have just something as simple as that. Look at the stock market. We know that there are, my brother actually got me a book called Flock and Flow, which was looking at how complex systems, dynamic systems then work with stock market. But then you need a massive amount of processing ability very, very quickly to process if this person is making this buying decision, that's a signal for this person to do the... And just old style of computing just doesn't work. But let's just go into the horror scenario first. So, I mean, I've got whatever hard drives that are backed up and they're encrypted. Many organizations have got massive data sets, like all the secrets, and they're all encrypted. What are they encrypted with? Well, they're basically now encrypted with, as soon as you get whatever quantum decrypting level where you have massive compute that will be put into this area, basically it'll be like whatever, protecting Fort Knox with sellotape. So right now it's going to happen. This is inevitable. I mean, already we see that there are whatever sort of simulant type of like neuromorphic quantums, so even if it's not using quantum physics at its back end to go do, they're sort of replicating some of those methods. If we look at the amount of billions that are going into, there's 40 billion being invested in quantum right now. I think I was looking at the numbers. So right now, for me, quantum is one of those things which has been around for ages, just like AI. It's something where material breakthroughs are either just been grinding their way in, or there'll be some sort of flip. If we look at the AI right now, it goes to the transformer technology that Google was doing with Google Translate. That all of a sudden you have something where you're doing pairwise languages into creating a meta language, and you can translate anything. So there are these sort of technology changes that are happening. I think what happens is that most people won't be able to handle vast compute at scale. But if you just want to work out what will be scary, imagine that you immediately have access to every single credit card. All of them. For all historic data. I was reading about store now, decrypt later. So right now then, I mean, there's lots of data files that basically meant to have got whatever, taken, hacked and everything else. And you might be thinking, oh, we're safe because they're encrypted. Yeah, but they're encrypted with sellotape. Not the case today, but this technology is inevitable. It's inevitable. So therefore, I think it's very important to get on people's radars early. I think it's as an investor, you need to then be aware that this is an area that is going to be big. Now, it's not just in, if you look at AI, there's Dell Computer making money like a bandit because of the hardware. You have NVIDIA making money like a mega super bandit because of the chipsets. You have people making money out of cloud services and. I think quantum is one of those areas where people really haven't begun to unpick it. But it also means that for entrepreneurs, there are going to be huge areas in the world of quantum, particularly tied to these other technologies as well. I don't see quantum being there as a sort of separate self-standing thing. It's very much integrated within the model. But it's also good that if you're an entrepreneur out there, it's more interesting to work on new stuff. Now, you could always set up another coffee shop because we know how coffee shops work and it's just a different coffee shop. But I think if you're a technologist, it's definitely an area you should get excited by. Now, it might not be the year for you in 25, maybe it's a 27 thing, but you really should have it on your radar and keep watching it. So this is what I'm doing. And then also doing things like, one of the reasons we started talking about Davos, so also bringing quantum to Davos, because it's the kind of thing where we're framing a narrative now, which will build and build. But if you're not the one framing the narrative now, somebody else will, and will basically take over that space, which is unfair. You were early in the space, but then it allows you to shape the narrative and then have a multi-year approach to it. But yeah, quantum's cool.
Oh, nicely put. And we are definitely seeing you in Davos.
Yeah, for sure. Things to be done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark. This was such a great pleasure to have you on the show, and your insights were fabulous, mind-blowing, and I'm sure the audience learned a lot. Any concluding thoughts before we wrap up?
Just go off and go do stuff. You'll be fine. I did look at, let's say, what advice would I give myself at the different ages?
Yes, please.
And I worked out that there's you'll be fine was the best thing. I wouldn't advise not doing, I lost control of my tech company and it cost me millions. Like, I wouldn't advise myself, don't do this, don't hire this person, anything else. You'll be fine. It's fine. So you'll be fine.
Okay.
But then for the innovative, creative ones, just go do it. Just go play. Have fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so
I
much.
love that.
Thank you, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mark Turrell. Thank you for tuning into Quantum Minds. See you in the next episode.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.